Could you please help this new channel by liking and subscribing? As you see, most of you listening are not subscribing. It will really help the channel grow. Thank you so much. Home alone cooking dinner after a long day, the last thing I expected was to feel terrified in the sanctuary of my own house. But the unexplained scratching sounds within the walls changed everything. It started subtly at first, easy to brush off as the house settling or tree branches brushing the siding outside. But the longer I stood stirring the pot on the stove, the louder and more distinct the scratching became. It definitely seemed to be coming from deep within the walls themselves, like something trapped was scrabbling to get out. But what could possibly have gotten in there? The more I tried to rationalize it, the creepier it felt. The scratching and scuttling continued sporadically as I ate, destroying my appetite. I turned on the TV to drown it out, but still couldn't ignore the sense of unease building inside me. This didn't seem like normal house noises anymore. As night fell, the noises grew more frantic, like whatever was causing them was panicked at being stuck in the cramped darkness. Part of me wanted to open the walls to free the trapped creature. The other part was too disturbed by the unnatural feeling of the whole situation. Leaving most of the lights on, I got ready for bed, hoping for silence. But as soon as I laid down, the scratching resumed, faster, more violent. Now it felt like something was determined to get attention, not just escape. My heart pounded. Wielding a flashlight like a weapon, I went room to room, ear pressed against the drywall, tracing the source. But it was everywhere and nowhere all at once. The entire house felt alive with sinister unseen things clawing to get out from inside it. What the hell had I moved into? Unable to take it anymore, I left all the interior lights blazing and retreated to my running car in the driveway, music blaring. At least now it drowned out the noises and activity temporarily so I could think. But I couldn't hide out here forever. As dawn finally came, I approached the house again cautiously. It appeared still, innocuous in the daylight. Had I imagined the whole thing? Fumbling from exhaustion, I made coffee and carried on my morning routine. Until the clawing and scratching started up again as I washed dishes. It was real after all, and not going away on its own. A sick feeling came over me. Events were escalating and I was alone in figuring this out. But what next? An internet search yielded no reports of animals getting trapped in walls this severely, which left me with the even more disturbing possibility that this was paranormal. As crazy as that seemed, nothing else fit. I decided to try talking aloud to whatever was seeking attention here. Told it calmly but firmly to leave this place and go toward the light or wherever it should be. The scratching only increased in response like a defiant answer. Now I was irritated on top of unnerved. This was my house. I refused to surrender it to some unknown entity trying to drive me mad with noises. If it wouldn't leave, I'd make it leave. Enlisting a psychic medium friend, we did a thorough cleansing ritual, opening windows to release trapped energy. She reassured me that whatever had been here was gone now. I burned sage just to be sure. The following days were peaceful. I could breathe easy again, no longer listening for sounds of menacing infiltration. Things seemed back to normal. Until late one night, when I was jolted awake by noises from deep within the bedroom wall behind my head, frantic scratching and scraping, trying to break through to me. My blood ran cold. It was back, or had never left at all. I leaped up, flipped on the lights and plastered myself against the farthest wall, overwhelmed with a feeling of suffocating evil emanating from behind the painted drywall. Whatever this entity was, it wanted me and wasn't finished. With dawn came uneasy rationalization. Maybe it had just been a hyper-realistic nightmare triggered by thinking about the noises. But when I saw 3 long, angry scratches clawed into the wallpaper, I couldn't deny the dark presence still polluting the house and my psyche. I had to take control before this sinister haunting consumed me. If peaceful purification hadn't worked, I'd use force. I called an old priest turned exorcist and demanded he cleanse the home immediately, no holds barred. Enough was enough. As he got to work banishing the evil force from existence itself, I regained hope I could reclaim my sanctuary. But I will never again ignore unexplained sounds in the night. Some mysteries are better left unsolved. Babysitting seemed like easy money for a high schooler like me, but one night I learned there was darkness lurking closer than I ever imagined. The Watsons were my favorite family to sit for. Their two young kids were so sweet and well-behaved. We'd play games, watch movies, then I'd tuck them in bed before finishing homework. It always went smoothly. When the Watsons left that night, nothing seemed out of the ordinary at first. We ordered pizza, played with dolls, everything normal. By 8 p.m., the kids were out like lights as usual. With the house now quiet, I settled into the living room and turned on the TV, volume low. The news played faintly in the background as I studied. Around 9 p.m. the landline rang. I hesitated before answering, wary of unknown calls at night when the kids were asleep. But I picked up briskly. If it was the Watsons checking in, I didn't want to appear lazy. No one responded when I said hello. Strange. I listened closer and heard faint crackling on the line, like someone was there but not speaking. Right as I moved to hang up, a man's gravelly voice broke the silence. "Tara. All alone in a big house, I see." A chill went down my spine. The TV seemed deafening in the heavy pause as I froze, stunned that this stranger somehow knew my name, let alone that I was here babysitting. The man chuckled. "The kids look so peaceful sleeping upstairs. You're a good babysitter, Tara. Or should I say irresponsible? Leaving the doors unlocked like that." The call clicked off, dial tone buzzing. I slammed the phone down, pulse racing. This had to be some creepy prank call, right? But how did he know such personal details? Heart pounding, I checked the doors. All locked like I knew they were. Peering outside revealed only empty darkness. I shut the blinds, trying to convince myself I was letting paranoia get the best of me over some random call. But when the phone rang again 15 minutes later, terror seized me. Against my better judgment, I answered again, hoping if I told him off, he'd leave me be. "Don't worry, Tara, I'm not inside. Yet. But I could be so easily." His eerie soft tone gave me chills. He was watching the house somehow, playing twisted games for his own amusement. "Why are you doing this? Just leave me alone." I forced bravery into my tone even as my hands shook. Now, don't get feisty. We're just getting to know each other. See you soon." The line went dead again. I wanted to wake the kids and wait out the rest of the night in the car, but I didn't want to scare them needlessly if it was some idiotic prank. So I grabbed a kitchen knife for defense and camped out on the couch with every light blazing. Each minute crawled by at a snail's pace as I flinched at every outside noise, wondering when this psychopath would make his deranged move. The fact that he remained unseen somehow made him even more terrifying. He could look totally normal if I passed him on the street. A boogeyman disguised in plain sight who had made me his target. I nearly jumped out of my skin each time a car drove by or a floorboard creaked, but no more disturbing calls came. Maybe he was done tormenting me for the night. Right at midnight, as I finally felt sleep approaching, the shrill ring of the phone jarred me alert again. I let it go to voicemail, but what came through was more chilling than any live call. Heavy breathing echoed over the line for a full minute before a chilling recorded message played. "Sweet dreams, Tara. You won't get rid of me so easily. This won't be our last call." That did it. Police were now on high alert, and the Watsons were on their way back early from a nearby hotel. Surely with authorities involved, this psycho would scurry back to the shadows, I hoped. But the following weeks were consumed by anxiety. They never caught him. The calls were untraceable. I realized he could still be out there biding his time. And I was right. Late one night I returned home alone to find the power dead and back door wide open. Waiting inside was a note that turned my blood to ice. "Change the locks, but I have other ways in. Sleep lightly, Tara." Staying home alone overnight always seemed like such a major rite of passage and milestone in my mind. But my first time being left solo ended up becoming a pivotal night I'll honestly never forget for all the wrong, terrifying reasons. I had practically begged my fairly strict parents for weeks ahead of time, emphatically trying to convince them that I was finally old enough and responsible enough now at 15 years old to handle staying by myself overnight. They were extremely reluctant and wary at first, but eventually agreed to let me have my way, as long as I swore to abide by their strict rules to keep all the doors and windows tightly locked and alarmed at all times, and basically just stay quietly in my bedroom until morning. My parents were going to merely be a quick phone call away at my aunt's house in town if I needed absolutely anything urgent. After gleefully scarfing down an indulgent pizza dinner followed by a horror movie marathon I wouldn't have normally been allowed to watch, it became clear that I was actually feeling much more bored and restless than truly scared or nervous about being alone. The house just seemed oddly and uncomfortably too quiet without my rowdy family's usual voices and sounds echoing around day and night. At least I had the internet and basically an unlimited junk food at my disposal to distract myself all night long in my room. However, around 11 p.m. when I initially headed upstairs to brush my teeth in the bathroom before finally settling down to go to sleep, that's the moment when I first suddenly heard it. A very loud and clear heavy thud or thumping sound from overhead like heavy boots walking around across the attic floorboards. I instantly froze in place, toothbrush still foaming unattractively in my mouth as I strained my ears in the silence. The only sound for a long minute was my own gradually accelerating heartbeat noticeably pulsing in my eardrums. I tried to slowly shake off the minor initial shock of the noise, awkwardly rinsing my mouth and convincing myself it was surely just normal nighttime house settling sounds, or possibly tree branches from the storm brushing against the roof outside. But I still couldn't fully ignore the subtle but growing sense of unease and vulnerability creeping steadily up on me. Slipping under my covers in the darkness of my room, I tried settling into sleep, but quickly realized even the smallest usual night noise now had me completely on anxious edge after what I thought I heard. Even just the furnace violently kicking on for the first time made me nearly jump out of my skin out of sheer primal surprise and tension. I sheepishly laughed tensely aloud to myself in the darkness at my obvious silliness for instantly assuming the worst and getting so worked up over what was very likely nothing at all. Trying desperately to relax again, I turned on some soothing music and stared up at the ceiling, finally managing to drift off into a light sleep after what felt like forever. I ended up being jolted abruptly awake sometime later by the shatteringly loud and jarring crashing sound of something extremely heavy toppling over or falling down directly above me on the second floor. I sat bolt upright in bed, frantically clutching at my blanket with shaking hands, breathing erratic and disoriented in panic for a few long seconds before I was able to reorient myself and remember that I was home alone and had no idea what that alarming noise was. I heard the definite heavy thudding of footsteps creaking deliberately across the hardwood floorboards of the upstairs hall. There was no denying it. Someone, or something, with 2 feet was moving around and walking freely around on the entirely empty second floor of the house. But I had thoroughly checked every single room earlier that night before going to bed, ensuring no person or animal was anywhere to be found. I sat there paralyzed in breathless, terrified silence, listening to the ominous heavy footsteps slowly meander above me, creaking gradually closer and closer to the attic stairs. There was someone inexplicably walking around upstairs, which should have been impossible. But this living nightmare happening to me was somehow real. Mustering panicked courage I did not actually feel, and grabbing the only potential weapon nearby, a field hockey stick left forgotten under my bed from middle school, I crept as silently as humanly possible out of my bedroom and towards the stairs. Grateful I had worn socks to bed, the plush upstairs carpet muted my timid footsteps as I inched along. Like hell, I was just going to sit there waiting helplessly in my room until whatever was upstairs came for me. The back door was only a few feet away on the first floor. Freedom just past the kitchen. Creeping down the carpeted stairs at a painstaking pace, I crouched unseen near the bottom landing, anxiously watching the attic door at the end of the hallway above. Knowing this was my chance, I suddenly flipped on the hallway light switch to full brightness and leaped out from hiding, screaming at the top of my lungs in primal aggression, wielding my hockey stick high and ready to swing. The figure emitted a very human, very male shriek of surprise, losing his balance and tumbling painfully down the hard remaining stairs, collapsing in a heap at my feet. I realized in bewilderment that the person cringing and trying to shield themselves before me was Ricky, none other than my stupid older sister's even stupider. Wanted prankster boyfriend. He had clearly been camping out secretly in our attic, planning to sneak out and probably scare me half to death, proving some asinine point. Seriously? Get the hell out of this house before I call the cops on you for breaking and entering, you absolute psycho. I shouted righteously at the top of my lungs, feeling my blood boiling with rage and a huge adrenaline crash. He scrambled shamefaced for the back door without a word, clearly realizing I was ready to bash his face in if he objected. My parents promptly banned him from our home for several months, once I explained the terror he had inflicted when they returned. Thank you all for listening in. If you haven't already, then please like and subscribe and help this new channel grow. It's free and means a lot.